Good day. Welcome to Catholic Saints Information. I'm the amateur Hagiographer. In this ep, I'm going to tell you about 5 martyrs who died together at the Tyburn Tree on the 4th of May in 1535. The word Tyburn in the title Tyburn Tree means place of the elms, but the tree in this case is not an elm, but a wooden gallows where people were hanged. For 650 years it was the principal location for public executions in London, England, and over 100 Catholics were murdered there for their faith. The first of these martyrs was St. John Houghton. Houghton was the prior of the London Carthusian Charterhouse. Carthusians are a contemplative religious order who have a strict rule of silence, live a simple life, and spend most of their time in prayer. Their houses are known as charter houses instead of monasteries or abbeys, and a prior is the superior or leader of the house. In 1534, King Henry VIII declared himself the head of the Church of England, deciding that the king had all the powers over religious laws and practice that he had over secular laws and practice. He effectively declared himself the Pope over all the lands and people that he ruled as a king, and he required people to swear an oath that they agreed with this. Houghton led 2 other priors, St. Augustine Webster of the Axholme Charterhouse and St. Robert Lawrence of the Beauville Charterhouse, to the London court to plead for the Carthusians, who had already taken vows as part of their profession into the order. He was going to plead that they not have to take this oath or otherwise renege on their loyalty to the Holy See as the head of the church. Thomas Cromwell, the king's closest advisor, responded to this request by having the 3 of them imprisoned in the Tower of London. Friars were ordered to take the oath, and when they refused, they were given a quick trial and sentenced to death for treason. The 4th member of the group was St. Richard Reynolds, a Byzantine monk. The Byzantines were another religious order. This one engaged in study, writing, translation, and distributing religious writings. Brother Richard was considered one of the most learned and holy monks in England and was known by the nickname the Angel of Sion. King Henry's people decided that if they could get St. Richard to submit to the new law and oath, his reputation for wisdom and holiness would convince many others to go along with it. So, to convince him, they imprisoned him, tried to talk him into it, and when he refused to submit, they switched from talk to abuse, then torture, and finally sentenced him to death. They were right that his decision would influence other people, but in this case it influenced them to stay loyal to Rome. The 5th member of this group of martyrs was Blessed John Hale, a parish priest in Isleworth, England. Unlike some famous martyrs who look forward to their end, Father John, who was elderly and failing health, had spent his whole adult life in service to the church and probably had very little time left on this earth anyway, had a dread and horror of death and dying. This makes his end all the more admirable since he too was imprisoned, abused, and tortured just like the others. And just like the others, he went to the gallows of Tyburn without losing his faith in Christ or his allegiance to Rome. Now at that time, condemned prisoners were taken to their place of execution, what were called hurdles. These are not the sort of things you see at a track meet. They were sleds made out of a couple of boards or a mat of woven branches and reeds. The prisoner would be tied hand and foot, strapped to this hurdle, and then dragged through the street by a horse so that everyone in the city could see him. Some people would abuse the prisoners to show their support for the king and the law, and everyone, whether they agreed or not, was given a warning of what could happen to them if they were not loyal enough. The trip from the prison to the gallows could take up to 3 hours, depending on the crowds that turned out for the execution. On the 4th of May in 1535, These 5 holy men, John Houghton, Augustine, Webster, Robert Lawrence, Richard Reynolds, and John Hale, were strapped to hurdles, hauled through the streets, then hanged, drawn, and quartered at the Tyburn Tree. One day I'll do a separate ep going into detail about this method of execution. But for now, let's just say that it was brutal and bloody, inevitably fatal, and was reserved for those who had committed treason. In this case, the treason of not accepting Henry VIII as the self-declared head of the church. These martyrs were beatified, some in 1886 by Pope Leo XIII, some in 1929 by Pope Pius XI, and the saints of the group were canonized in 1970 by Pope Paul VI. The web pages for this ep have images of the Tyburn Tree, the execution hurdles, the 5 martyrs, and more involved here. There are links to expanded profiles of the lives and work of the martyrs, links to stories about other faithful who were murdered at Tyburn, and a free ebook download. It was written by the nuns of Tyburn about the martyrs who died there. For more information about these and thousands of other saints and beati in the church, come see us at CatholicSaints.Info, CatholicSaints.Mobi, or the Saints section of the free Laudate app. Links to all this will be in the show notes. I'm the amateur Hagiographer, and thanks for listening.